The ICJ was asked to rule on whether it's plausible genocide is taking place in Israel. It said that is plausible. It was then asked by South African prosecutors to make a judgment on, because of that, whether any preliminary measures should be taken. South Africa suggested 9, including the main one, a ceasefire. That was not granted. But
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The UN Security Council has now voted for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza for only the remainder of Ramadan. It's almost now 2 months since the ICJ's plausible genocide ruling, and yet the killing, the destruction and the weaponised starvation goes on.
It's the first genocide in the history of humanity that is live streamed on television. And it's all the more shocking because 2 of the main backers of the genocide, the plausible genocide, to use the phrase of the International Court of Justice, are the United States and America.
Is Israel in breach of the UN court's ruling? The International Court of Justice ordered its military to end acts of genocide, as well as to prevent incitement to commit genocidal acts. But with more Palestinians killed in Gaza every day, who can force Israel to comply? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Adrian Finnegan. The United Nations top court has ordered Israel to prevent and punish actions that could lead to or incite genocide in Gaza. It also ordered much-needed humanitarian aid and basic services be allowed into the Strip. The ruling was widely viewed as a step towards ending Israel's war, but in the weeks that have followed, troops have continued to act with impunity, intensifying their indiscriminate killing of Palestinians. And now Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is threatening a possible military offensive in Rafah, the southernmost point of the territory. Palestinians are trapped with nowhere to go. So what can be done to end Israel's brutality? We have plenty to discuss with our guests. But first, this report.
On January the 26th, the United Nations highest court determined there was plausible evidence of genocide in Gaza. It was a historic moment for Palestinians.
The International Court of Justice ruling that it is plausible that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza should have been the moment that this government suspended arms sales to Israel and finally called for an immediate end to Israel's bombardment of Gaza.
It's been a week since the International Court of Justice found it plausible that Israel's committing genocide in Gaza.
Brianna, what's on your radar?
Well, you may recall that after South Africa filed its genocide petition before the International Court of Justice at The Hague, State Department spokesperson John Kirby dismissed the petition as meritless, counterproductive, and completely without basis in fact whatsoever. But on Friday, the principal judicial organ of the United Nations begged to differ. A 17-judge panel overwhelmingly found that South Africa's genocide case is in fact, quote, plausible.
Would it be fair to say, and I'm no lawyer and many people watching and listening will not be lawyers, but would it be fair to say that the key point that you made your initial order and ruling upon was whether or not there was a plausible case that should be taken on by the court of genocide in the case of Israel's actions in Gaza after October 7, and you quite clearly decided that there was a plausible case? Is it right to say that's at the heart of what you decided?
You know, I'm glad I have a chance to address that because the court's test for deciding whether to impose measures uses the idea of plausibility, but the test is the plausibility of the rights that are asserted by the applicant, in this case, South Africa. So the court decided that the Palestinians had a plausible right to be protected from genocide and that South Africa had the right to present that claim in the court. It then looked at the facts as well, but it did not decide, and this is something where I'm correcting what's often said in the media, it didn't decide that the claim of genocide was plausible. It did emphasize in the order that there was a risk of irreparable harm to the Palestinian right to be protected from genocide. But the shorthand that often appears, which is that there's a plausible case of genocide, isn't what the court decided.